Good morning, everyone. We are now connected to everyone. We have a morning session with 4 people who are going to presenting their work. I'm presenting myself. My name is Matteo Cordier. I'm doing research to the Université de Versailles, Saint-Quentin-en-Yvelines, Université Paris-Saclay. And so we have 4 sessions this morning. Patrick Poulin, who is going to talk about the restoration of an old dump. Then we'll have Nina Kudenek. She's going to speak about plastic pollution by harbors and how to prevent plastic pollution from harbors in France. The 2 first presentations will be from French case studies. Then we'll have Giulia Leone. She has been studying plastic remediation technology, so how to clean plastic from the environment, how to remove it, and which technologies of cleaning are effective and which are not. And then we will end with Alexandra Kanonik. She has been working on cleaning beaches on the New York short lines in the US. So Patrick, the floor is yours. You can start directly to share your screen.
Okay, I share my presentation. It's okay for you?
Perfect.
Yes, okay. I'm going to present to you the cleanup of old landfill sites. Since 2010, the Marine Park has been trying to limit waste pollution in its area. The Heroes Marine Park is a marine protected area since 2008, and since 2020, it has been part of the French Environmental Agency, OFB. In the context, in the 2020, 91% of waste collected in the park is plastic. We don't want to decontaminate all the polluted sites in River Sea, but we just want to do it in areas that are difficult to access. In this way, we hope to prevent this waste from returning at the sea and becoming a microplastic. So we interested in an old landfill. For about 70 years, the cliff of Bouguepep in the southeast of Wesson Island has been used as a dumping ground. You can see a different the evolution between 1963 and 2012 for the dump. The pollution was estimated at 8,000 cubic meters of waste, and it exists instability in the dump can impact the marine park. This instability is linked at sea level rise, so we can see the same thing on other sides of France and Europe. So this project is experimental in nature and is likely to provide feedback. This old landfill is a challenge big for us. It contains plastic, metal, household waste, dumped on site since the 1950s. It's an island, so it's very difficult to access. And we are not alone for work of this project. We have two teams, Burgeap and Le Floc Dépollution. For objectives, we are 4 objectives, 4 goals. Stopping the spread of waste in the marine environment, removal of waste with long and continuous negative impacts of both habitats and spaces, return of the site to a good ecological and landscape state, and finally, renaturation, return of the nature, and protection of the site afterwards. The total cost of this project is 2.2 million euros, thanks to France Plan de Relance budget. And now, this work was carried out in 4 major stages. I will come back to these different phases. The first 2 phases allowed us to obtain the authorization to carry out this work and do different studies to know the stability of the site, to try to better understand the content of the landfill and characterize the waste, as you can see on this photo. And finally, a study to predict the dispersion of the waste during the work. These studies showed that we had a little asbestos. Asbestos, c'est l'amiante in French. It was a good news for us. If not, the cost of the work would have been more important. And the excavation or decontamination stage of the landfill was the longest. The most difficulty is that we work on a small area around protected habitats like that. It's here. Very quickly, the space was occupied with excavated waste and soil. So it's very difficult for him. Now we can see some figures. The total tonnage excavated, it's 755 tons. The part of the metal is very important. For example, you can see a boat, metal boat, at 38 meters longer. So it's very long. You have asbestos 2.5 tons. And for the soils, wasn't really a waste. We didn't decide to take it to the mainland. It stayed on the island. So we worked a management plan for these soils to be reused on the side. It was possible because we did some analysis. Soil was not polluted, no risk for the nature, human health. It was not ecotoxic. So we can use for the reprofiling. In the final stage of this project, it's the reprofiling and the renaturation to allow the return of protected areas to the sea. This stage has begun from November 2022. The parts of rock and soils extracted are used to reprofile and secure the site on the old landfill and around the area. To do this, we use experimental technique with geotextile made of coconut and a net with seeds of moorland, c'est la lande. We hope that this technique will facilitate the renaturation of the site, and it will be followed up in the few years. Now, we can see a review of 9 months of work since January. We can see how project has evolved since January 2022. And we can see the site as it was before 1963. So we are really happy with these results. And now we do it again. No, it was very difficult. We don't forget that we were lucky. No more albezos, no polluted soils. So in order to give a report of the difficulty and results, we want to develop technical supports. And for the general publics, for example, we want to develop a photo exhibition, films. And in addition to the technical part of this project, we want awareness raising with a series of presentations to Wesson schools and public meetings with local people of Wesson to help them change their actions in the future. We don't want to come back in 10 years to do the same thing. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this interesting presentation. Let's see if there is some questions in the pad. So don't forget you have the pad to all the audience. Don't forget you have the pad on the Frama pad to make your question, written questions. The link is directly on the website of the conference, just below the names of the speakers of the session. So at the moment, I don't see any questions. If there is later, we'll go back to the, oh, maybe one is starting, yeah. Michael Kadzierski has a question, or a comment, maybe. We can go back to you. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, the question from Michael Kadzierski to Patrick. Where did the soil come from that was used to fill the landfill after it was cleaned up? Where was the contaminated soil put? Patrick, if you have any answer to that question.
I don't see the question. Where the soils?
Where the soil came from, the soil that was used to fill the landfill after it was cleaned up, where the soil came from?
In Wesson Island, different people of Wesson used soils in the garden, for example, and or soils of different work in the island, and get on all the landfill to complete the waste.
So the soil came from, to my understanding, the soil came directly from the dump.
Yes.
And then it was
for profiling.
Yeah.
The soils come back, become at the landfill.
It came from the landfill. Il venait du landfill. Oui.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The soil came from the landfill and came back to the landfill after verifying it was not toxic, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
And also, you said it was put also in gardens of people.
Yes, before.
Oh, before. Okay. Thanks.
En fait, c'était des fois les terres d'avant que les gens ont rajouté dans la décharge après.
Ok, qui venaient de leur jardin.
Ces terres-là qu'on a utilisées pour, à la fin du projet, elles venaient du coup de la décharge. On a fait des tests et elles ont été reprofilées après.
Ok. Donc, c'est ce qu'on a dit en anglais, c'était correct?
Ouais, c'est ça.
Ok. Okay, fine, thanks. And next question, is there a risk of the soil being contaminated by microplastics? S'il y a un risque que le sol soit contaminé par des microplastiques?
Yes, we can, but for reduce this risk, we have used a separation technique on the soils and plastic. We have used aspiration.
Okay. You in vacuum cleaning the soil to
Yes.
extract the microplastics from the soil before returning it to the reprofiled site.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Matteo.
So it was a remediation technology from the field, from the environment. You did cleaning the plastic from the soil. Okay. Well, thank you for the questions from Michael Kadzierski. Thank you for your answer, Patrick. Let's go to the next presentation because I see the time is running very fast. So now we will listen to Nina Kudenek about preventing plastic pollution from harbors in France, in Iroise. Nina, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm just trying. Is it okay? Okay, so good morning everyone. I am Nina Kudenek and I work at the Iroise Natural Park with Patrick. And I present you the Partner for Charter and Preventing Plastic Pollution, two complementary projects to reduce plastic pollution in the Iroise Marine Natural Park. First of all, the Iroise Marine Natural Park is, as you can see on the lower right corner, at the tip of Brittany in France. In 2010, a study based on the OSPAR protocol showed in the MPA a trend at the opposite of the national data. Actually, the main part of the map in the Iroise Sea was of maritime pollution, about 20%. 13% of that pollution was contributed by industrial fishing, making it the most polluting activity. And most of that pollution was plastics. So macro waste from harbors activities became a target. The Partner Port Charter creates a partnership between the Iroise MPA, which is a local governance tool, and port areas of its territory. With this charter initiated in 2016, the MPA has implemented a modern quality and environment charter process. It identifies potential environmental impacts of port activities and defines priority areas and pollution reduction strategies. This charter includes 7 parts: carrying, waste management, oil pollution, education and awareness, dredging, etc. And it's engaging both the MPA for technical and financial support and port managers. Varying requirements are made according to the scale of the port. Since 2021, every 11 hours of the MPA territory are committed to this charter. This stakeholders network has allowed the organization of trainings on common issues for local elected representatives and port agents. It also encourages joint actions such as recycling of old ships, port underwater cleanup, etc. Preventing plastic pollution is an Interreg project started in 2019 with 18 partner organizations from France and England. It seeks to understand and reduce the impacts of plastic pollution in the marine environment. The aim is to identify and target hotspot plastics, embed behavior change in local communities and businesses, and to implement effective solutions and alternatives to plastic. The IRWAS MPA targeted depollution operations and implementation of effective solutions to reduce plastic pollution from harbors. The first operation I present you today is port depollution. So 7 ports have been depolluted between 2019 and 2022. 62 tons of macro waste have been removed from the bottom of ports. In terms of volume, the top 3 macro waste we found in ports are tires, 60%, about 10% of macro waste from fishing and aquaculture, and about 20% of what we call domestic waste, so plastic packaging, glass, etc., and about 10% of other, for example, rubber from construction industry. Tires are used as the boat fenders to protect boats from docks. And the network of port managers decided to remove all the tires from the docks in GMPA. And now every boat owner uses its own fenders. So we hope it will drastically reduce the risk of pollution. Between 2020 and 2022, the IRWAS MPA organized and financed an operation to transport all boats from 3 islands of the territory to an approved dismantling center in Brest for recycling. So we managed to treat 55 boats, which represent about 25 tons. Another operation is the management of used fishing gears, and 155 tons of used fishing gear discarded every year in IRWAS. 126 tons are plastic nets. So we helped the 3 main fishing harbors to organize selective collection of used plastic fishing nets. We also launched a study to support the setting up of recycling channels for old fishing nets. So we are trying to devise a modular collection and recovery scheme. And to reduce and replace plastics, we are testing biosourced fishing nets, and we also study biosourced rocks to evaluate their ecotoxicity. The complementarities between the Partner Port Charter and the Preventing Plastic Pollution projects permitted to GMPA to implement a territorial policy to reduce plastic pollution at sea with a budget from European projects, so Preventing Plastic Pollution and France Relance plan, Patrick already told you in the last presentation. And the aim of these operations was to settle or support the implementation of a selective collection, transport, and valorization system for plastic harbor waste. As it is important to demonstrate the sustainability of these one-off aid measures over time, different steps of the project were combined with awareness raising, information and training of every category of port stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina. Let's see if there is some questions for you in the pad. No question at the moment. I have one question. You mentioned the nets you are testing now in the sea. It has been a bit fast for me. Was it bioplastic nets or something else?
Yes, it is a biosourced plastic net.
Biosourced plastic nets. Could you talk a bit about the recycling or biodegradation capacity of such biosourced plastic nets? Is it possible for it to degrade in the natural environment if it's lost in the sea?
We don't really know yet. It is sold as a net which can biodegrade in methanization.
In what?
Methanization.
Oh, yeah, okay, methanization process.
Yes.
Okay.
In a waste management plant. So at sea, we unfortunately don't know yet.
But it could be collected then and go to biomethanization process.
That's the aim, yes.
I think that's a very interesting topic. The biodegradability of biosourced plastics is a hot topic. Some people say, yeah, it is biodegradable. Some people say, no, it is not. Very often it is in specific conditions in laboratories or waste treatment plants. And that's a challenge for the future, you know, to see how biosourced plastic can biodegrade effectively in the environment.
Yes.
Yeah,
we are running an eco-toxicity study on the biosourced ropes. So we have a bit of information here.
Okay, it's nice to do research on that and to go further in the solutions to these kind of recycling in the nature. Sure. Okay, let's see if there is question. No questions at the moment. So let's go to the next presentation. The presentation by Giulia Leone.
Thank you. I'm gonna share. Can you see it? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can see.
As Matteo said, I'm Giulia, and today I would like to talk to you about plastic remediation technologies. And so I would like to start with the definition of what I mean by plastic remediation technologies. These are important human-made systems or devices that are used and invented for reducing plastic pollution. And they have already been grouped in two categories: prevention technologies and collection technologies. The names are quite straightforward. Prevention technologies are aiming to prevent more plastic from entering the environment, while collection or cleanup technologies are aiming at cleaning up plastic that is already in the environment. And in this slide, you can see a few pictures of different mechanisms for both. So based on this definition, the goals of the study were to create a plastic remediation technology overview or an updated version, and then to investigate from this overview the current field of application of the remediation technologies, and also investigate their possible opportunities and challenges, in particular of plastic collection technologies or cleanup technologies. So what did we do? At first, we conducted a systematic literature review following the PRISMA guidelines, and you can see here the inclusion criteria, and I would like to draw your attention to which type of study we included. So all the studies that were looking at devices explicitly developed for preventing or collecting plastic were included, but attitude changes or volunteering cleanup, monitoring of plastic legislation, they were not included in the study. And then in this diagram, you can see that we ended up with 61 studies based on the inclusion and exclusion criteria that I mentioned before. We also conducted a non-systematic literature review using the search term that were quite similar to the systematic literature review. And this was important because the majority of these technologies are not necessarily yet found in the literature or the scientific literature, but a lot of information can be found on company websites or newspaper, Facebook pages. So this was important to integrate and fill in the overview. So merging the systematic and non-systematic review, we ended up with a total of 124 collection and prevention system and 29 of their characteristics. And by characteristics, I mean, for instance, possible cost, the website, if they have a patent or not, the developmental stage in which they are at the moment, and the field of application that I mentioned at the beginning. And so the field of application was for us important to understand where these remediation systems are mainly deployed. And you can see from the slide that the majority of the systems are placed in inland waterways. And by inland waterways, I mean rivers, estuary, canals. But you can also see that having one single group for one specific technology, it's impossible, because some of them might have multiple field of application. However, the majority of them still end up to have to be in the inland waterways with at least one possible field of application. So based on the previous results, we decided to conduct a SWOT analysis on the technologies deployed in inland waterways and ports. The SWOT analysis is an analysis that is looking into strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of a process or a system. So as I said, we focused on systems deployed in inland waterways and ports, mainly only operational technologies, and we grouped them into different categories. So firstly, we grouped them into mobile and stationary system. Mobile system, as the term says, are mobile, and stationary are fixed system. They were furthermore divided into active and passive systems. So all the mobile systems are active, while the stationary could be active or passive based on the way that they gather the debris. And here I want to mention something. Passive systems rely on, for instance, the river flow to gather the debris, but some of these technologies use active ways of removing actually the plastic from the water out. So the passive only means the way that they actually bring the plastic to a collection point. And then they were furthermore divided into crewed, uncrewed, and autonomous. And you can see for the mobile, they could be divided in 3 different categories, but for the stationary, they were all autonomous. And I think crewed and autonomous are easy to understand. And by uncrewed, I mean remotely controlled systems. So the results of the SWOT analysis in general, stationary and mobile system, independently of what they are, they have important opportunities. They can raise awareness on plastic pollution. They create job opportunities. And of course, they remove plastic from the environment, bringing up environmental quality, but also improving the local area in which they might be deployed. However, people might see the technologies as a unique solution and discard even more plastic in the environment. And also, so far, there are few regulations for these systems, mainly because they are relatively new. If we're briefly going more into details for the stationary technologies, both passive and active don't need a continuous attendance of personnel, but the passive systems don't, for instance, require energy to collect plastic, but they rely on the river flow or the water flow. On the other hand, the active system don't need that, but they need energy to function, which can also be a threat because of the high energy costs. Then if we're looking into the mobile technologies, they all rely on energy consumptions. However, the uncrewed and autonomous systems, for instance, they require fewer or even no human intervention, while crewed systems, even though rely on humans, they can scan larger area. And all of these, since they rely on energy, they can be designed to run, for instance, on solar energy or even use green energy. So to conclude, we found 124 plastic remediation technologies between collection and prevention. However, there might be more because of no online presence of some of these technologies, or they are not in use anymore, so the website was no longer available, or even language barrier. We found out that the major field of application is inland waterways, and the technologies can be grouped according to their gathering debris mechanism, although a clear definition or clear categorization is not always easy. They do offer crucial opportunities, as I mentioned before: data collection, jobs, opportunities, and raising awareness for plastic pollution. However, we need to be careful because they might be wrongfully perceived as the only solution for plastic pollution. So to really conclude, and I have 2 points that I would like you to remember from the presentation, plastic remediation technologies are a key element and important in the fight against plastic pollution in combination with other pre- and post-consumer solutions. And because they are important, more and more will be likely to be deployed. So they should be carefully assessed and regulated. Thank you for attention. And if you have questions, feel free to ask now or just send me an email.
Thank you very much, Julia. We already have a question in the pad, so I will read the question from Anna Catarino from the Flanders Marine Institute, the VLIS, I guess.
Yes.
So thanks. I read the questions from Anna Catarino. Thanks, Julia, for the interesting presentation. How do you view the deployment of these technologies as an opportunity to engage with the general public on the topic of plastic pollution, prevention and remediation? And what do you mean by existence and language barrier? Is it okay for the question? You can read it in the pad, Julia, if you want.
Yeah, I think I understood. So I will try to reply because I'm not sure where the pad is. No, okay. I will try to reply. Yeah, I think I understood the question. So I will start with the first part of the question. I think that in order to raise awareness and to engage the general public, there has been a lot of media campaign for some of these technologies to explain the plastic pollution problem and to explain what they are doing and why it is important to remove plastic, especially from the environment, but also preventing more plastic from entering the environment. So this is one way. So as I said, media campaign, but also for the local community in which the technologies are deployed, especially here for well, actually for both stationary and mobile, because since they engage with the population with job opportunities as well, people get more aware, and then they also talk about it to their community. So this is the way that I see how these technologies can raise awareness and engage the general public. And then some of these companies also work with citizen science to gather and collect data on the debris that they collected. So yeah, this is how I think they can engage the general public. And for the second part of the question, what I mean by language barrier is that I think some of these technologies can also be they are not necessarily from a big company, but maybe even in a really small local community, they just decide to put some booms to stop the plastic from flowing in a local and small river, but they don't necessarily have a website or they don't necessarily have an online presence. So if they don't, then they are not, we couldn't find them and they were not included in our overview. And for the language barriers, that maybe some of these, we mainly screened websites that were in English, some websites in different language and then translating them, but still the search term were in English. So we might have missed some of websites that were written in different languages.
Thank you, Julia. We have another question from Dominique Kazmarek from the University of Wuppertal. So thanks for the interesting presentation. I'm not sure if I missed it, but do you have also results for the pre-remediation techniques? Mostly you mentioned tools for the washing machines. Do you also know tools for other microplastic sources?
So I have to be honest, the majority of the systems that were included in the overview were actually cleanup technologies, and this results was also found in 2020 by Smaltz et al. They also found that prevention technologies are not as many as collection technologies are. And the majority that I found for prevention technologies are actually washing machine filters, shower filters, or generally filters to put in your household and filter water.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question. About cleaning plastic from the ocean. What do you think about it, knowing that cleaning technologies nowadays is only surface water plastic, not all the plastic at different depths? Do you think we should keep cleaning the ocean, knowing where we are just able to remove 0 point something percent, maybe 0.1, 2, 3%, and not the vast majority of the plastic in the ocean?
Well, personally, I think yes, because I still think that it's important to remove plastic also from the ocean. There was a recent publication now that showed that a lot of plastic coming, especially from fishery, is in the ocean. So we do need, as I said before, to combine post-consumer solution and also focus on removing the plastic from rivers, so before they enter the ocean. But also some of this plastic is already in the ocean, and if it doesn't get removed, it will just break down into smaller and smaller pieces and leachate of chemicals. So I do think it's important. I also think that we should focus as well in trying to find solution to remove the plastic that is not necessarily at the surface, but these technologies are quite new, and I think it's easier technologically speaking to remove the one that is floating. And then, the next step would be to look into the water column, but also the sediment. For sure, those plastics should be removed as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Let's go to the last presentation from Alexandra Kanonik. So you can start, Alexandra, when you want to share your screen.
Thank you, Matteo. I'm starting it right now. Hopefully it all works. Okay, and play. Everybody see that? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So my name is Alexandra. I'm the director of the Northeast chapter of the American Littoral Society. I'm going to preface this by saying, what does littoral mean? We're not librarians. It stems from a Latin term for the beach. So we're a coastal nonprofit conservation organization that started in 1961. We're headquartered on Sandy Hook, New Jersey. My unit is based in New York City. So this is the Northeast chapter. Our unit formed in 1981, and we're located right in the heart of Jamaica Bay. So people forget New York City actually has a lot of nature that people don't realize, not just invasive stuff, but lots of native great habitat. This photo is right here, is from our backyard in our field site, right in Queens, New York. And Jamaica Bay has all these beautiful marsh islands that support lots of life. For the estuary in New York City. The islands have been declining, but this is just a nice bird's eye view of where I work. So we have many programs at the Northeast chapter. We do a lot of marsh island restoration, and we engage the community in these efforts. We coordinate lots of cleanups with volunteers, school groups, all kinds of groups throughout the community. So I will be talking about our biggest and longest running program, the New York State Beach Cleanup. This is our 37th year, which is very exciting. It started in 1986. It originated from, as a little history lesson, in 1985. The Environmental Protection Agency published the report about plastics in the ocean, and that motivated staff from what was forming to be the Ocean Conservancy back then to start these efforts of volunteer cleanups right around their offices in Texas. And we launched from that as they started the initiative. We started our own initiative in New York City in 1986. And the beach cleanup started off as a modest 4 sites with just 100 volunteers. Throughout the years, we've engaged 100 beaches in 1 year and over 10,000 volunteers year to year for the last 37 years. It's been an interesting effort, and we document what we find. So that's what sets us apart from other cleanups. This is a great photo of an example of an average cleanup that we have. We have a great organization that sometimes comes out and brings out 200 volunteers on 1 day. And in 1 day, they cleared out 5,000 pounds of debris from one of our local beaches. This is another beach around Jamaica Bay where it doesn't take much. A 3-hour cleanup creates these really great visual, measurable results. And it makes the community feel good that they're participating and they're contributing something to the health of their local environment. So we take it a step further. All the cleanups that we host for the beach cleanup program, we collect data, and we have this website where we publish this data, and anyone who is interested can check this website out and pull up our results from all these last years. On the ground, what we do during the collection period, so the whole entire effort, back in the 90s, how do you coordinate cleanups that all happen on the same day without cell phones? Well, you pick a day. So historically, we followed it for cleanups in September, the second weekend of September, usually September 17th. This past season, we had it on September 17th. So many sites were activated. We had about 53 sites activating, doing cleanups all on the same day for September 17th. And then we extended the collection period from August to November so that we can host even more sites and even more coordinated cleanups to give us the data to collect on the types and quantities and kinds of, plastics and things that they find. We use a data sheet that the Ocean Conservancy sends to us. It's a standard data sheet, very simple to use, just tick marks. Nowadays, they also have an app called CleanSwell, where people can record their data on your phone as well, instead of I like using the paper data sheets. It's, very messy when you do a cleanup. And some of the pictures on the bottom show how people coordinate these. What we do on our end is we send our volunteers supplies. We send them the data cards, trash bags, training materials. If they're doing this for the first time, how do you do it? So we send people all of that information so that they're ready for their cleanup, and then they can do it and then send us the results back. And then we are kind of the middle person that sends them off to the Ocean Conservancy. At the end of the season, I have a huge packet of data that has to be put together and put into reports as we're kind of starting to wrap up our season. So what does the data look like, right? Once the season is over and we have time to sit down and really tally everything up, we publish something on the website called the Dirty Dozen, which is the 12 most common pieces of trash that we find on the shorelines every single year. And you can track those changes year to year, right? So in 2021, our Dirty Dozen, it's interesting to see, at least right now, anecdotally, as I'm putting the data together, that the most common thing people are finding nowadays are those tiny plastics, the microplastics, right? The tiny plastic pieces, you don't even know what it is anymore, but that's the most common thing people are recording. Next on the list is cigarette butts. We're going to be updating our data sheet soon because cigarettes are being transferred for the metal vaping pods, and behavior-wise, people are treating those even worse metal pods as cigarette butts. So we're finding those more and more on our shorelines. Plastic bottle caps come in third, and then you get food wrappers, straws, glass pieces, plastic bottles, metal bottles. And a lot of our volunteers sometimes take the initiative and do interesting things with the trash themselves, like making an artwork with that sea turtle, which I thought was really cute. And we also weigh and measure the bags that are collected. So this is how we tally the poundage. All the plastic and trash that we collect, we weigh it before it goes and gets deposited to landfill or recycled, depending on how, our volunteer groups are coordinating their cleanup. What actually happens with the data? Well, it's open access, so anybody can use it. And one of the really nice things that we were able to use our New York State beach cleanup data for was to update regulations for recycling. So in 1982, there was this bigger, better bottle bill for New York State, but they didn't include all the different types of bottles that you can deposit. You do nickel deposit for, on the ground recycling activities. And so our beach cleanup data was used to expand the law to incorporate non-carbureted bottles, the iced tea bottles, water bottles, which everybody uses, whereas before they weren't included in that nickel deposit, which really helps with more recycling, just from individuals collecting bottles and recycling them at their local grocery store or center. So it was interesting that, back in the 90s, I believe, we were able to help with updating some of the regulations for New York State with our data. All right, so what does 37 years look like? Well, here are the graphics. So as far as just very general totals, you can see how our volunteer participation has changed year to year. From 93 to 2021 is where we have the most solid data set, which is why I've chosen that specific section. It's interesting, you can see dips in and changes in volunteer numbers. I will note that between 2011 2013, that dip is very likely attributed to Hurricane Sandy, where people were more worried about, restoring their houses rather than participating in a beach cleanup. But people were still participating, which was really heartening. And if you can see the total pounds of debris removed, it varies year to year, but in general, it stays pretty high. One of our biggest years was about 80,000 pounds of trash that was picked up collectively from New York State shorelines. And those really high years that you see on the right-hand side, a lot of those are groups that decided to remove large ticket items because they were able to, like boats from marshes, which is really interesting. So it really like bumps up the tonnage of, the debris that we get at the end of the year. So all those peaks are probably groups that were coming in and removing whole boats from their marshes as part of the beach cleanup effort, which is really neat. As a fun metric, so this past year, 2021, we collected about 42,000 pounds for the year of trash. That equates to about 2 Tyrannosaurus Rexes, if you want to equate it to something. All right, and then how do we keep track of everybody? Well, on our website, we keep track of all of the sites. So this is how the sites broke down in 2022. We actually did pretty well so far, and we're still counting because our collection period ends in November. So we're not quite done yet with cleanups. I think I have 2 more coming up. But right now, our total so far is 102 sites that were activated for this past year. That incorporates all of New York City, Long Island, and we even have the Great Lakes up in Buffalo, which is that top right-hand corner. So all in all, we did pretty well. And what happens when we get our results? Well, people send us all kinds of information. So we can really get some fun anecdotals and projects that people send to us. So a school group collected, hundreds of cigarette butts and made this really cool shark. We also have a fishing line project where we collect fishing line from our local bays. We have collection bins, which is a little bit separate, but also combined into the beach cleanup effort. So that's what 10 pounds of collected line look like. And over here, we are also looking into creative ways of recycling it. So right now, there is one graduate student that contacted our partners that help us on the project. She's going to try to make sneakers out of the fishing line as part of her fashion graduate final project, something like that. So hopefully she does very well. We're going to find out. On the right-hand side, we have a big giant piece of styrofoam. It's a lot lighter than it looks. So, when we clean up our beaches, sometimes we pick up things like that. And those big blocks of styrofoam are important because, they break down on the environment and cause more harm if you don't remove it. So, we have very engaged and motivated volunteers out here. On the lower right-hand side, we had an interesting situation happen a few years back where our volunteers were reporting they were finding these funny little wheels on their beaches and nobody knew what they were. Turns out they were plastic scrapers that are used in wastewater treatment plants, and they escaped. And they escaped from Westchester County and traveled along the Long Island Sound down to the beaches in Glen Cove. And if I can backtrack, that's basically, if you see on this map where it says White Plains, that's Westchester County. So that means scrapers traveled across that waterway down to the top of Long Island, right there in that kind of neck where there's a channel. And so people were finding millions of them on the beach. And what's interesting is because these motivated volunteers put that alert out, we kind of added the next few years of a little mini report card saying, hey, if you see this, let us know. And we were able to track it down to the faulty wastewater treatment plants that were letting these things loose into the environment. And then, if the right authorities were alerted and the problem stopped, which is kind of a interesting result of, volunteer reporting. So as you can see, volunteer reporting has a lot of uses, and we're able to collect all this information throughout the years about, the types of trash that ends up washing up on our shorelines, and use it for good, use it for projects, offer it for other people to play around with. So it's available. And thank you very much. If you have any additional questions about our beach cleanup program, you can email me. You can always connect with us on social media. We're very active on social media. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. We have questions for you in the pad, so I will read them. It's a question from Anna Catarino from the Vlies in Belgium. So Anna Catarino says, thanks for the great presentation. You have a beautiful data set. How long does it take you to go through the data and do the data curation and verification? This is the first question to you, Alexandra.
A long time. So our very busy season is from summer to late November. We're just winding down. So I'm just getting ready to sit down and put all of this together. It takes a couple of days, depending on if I have help or not. I have two other very motivated people that are going to be helping me on the effort. So hopefully our goal is to have our 2022 results published by end of December. We're hoping that works out. If not, probably top of January, but Ocean Conservancy has kind of a deadline, so we try to do it before the new year starts.
Okay, thank you. And second question, where can the data be found as open access, and is it also sent to an official repository to have more visibility and findability?
Yeah, if you poke around the New York State Beach Cleanup website, so nysbeachcleanup.org, on the left-hand side, when you go in through results, there will be reporting of, like, you can look up past years. If you have trouble finding it, you can email me and let me know. We're kind of working on maybe updating the website because it was written in HTML back in the day. So there are many things and modules that we can add to it. We're starting to think about how we can update it to be more user-friendly. But if you're interested in anything specific, anyone is welcome to contact us and we can send off what we have.
Okay, so I guess your email is available in the abstract with the program. And Anna Catarino, do you have the email of Alexandra? Do you know where to find it? Otherwise, Alexandra, you can go into the pad and write your email to make sure Anna can find you. Yeah. Well, thank you very much to everyone. Now we will go to the Lanzarote room for the wrap-up session, because this morning there were several sessions, 3 sessions, I guess, this morning, and we all gather in the Lanzarote room to make the summary of the morning sessions. So thank you very much, and see you in Lanzarote room in 2 minutes. Bye-bye.